That's fine. Diffuse it for me. Solid. Diffuse it. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're outside.
That's what we do. Let's take this back to the beginning.
Okay.
All three.
Okay, let's see here. Thank you. Let's see here.
Do you have enough space? Do you have everything you need? Everything back in the back.
Testing. Let's see here. Let's get this set up. All right. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Share this out to the world. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I'm going to start here in just a second, guys. Just be patient. I appreciate it. We are trying to get this out to people. I know I'm running a little bit late today, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right. All right. Okay. All right. So, yeah, anyone want to come open the box? You guys are more than welcome to come in the boxes. I don't mind that at all. Just be respectful. But today we're talking about how to help investigate their VA disability. Um, the uh, okay, let's see here. All right. Let's all right, let's see here. We need patience, guys, patience. I apologize. Disclosure. Okay. So yeah. So today is all about VA disability, right? So that's what we're gonna go over. Okay. I'm also. See here. Gonna add another thing here. Stickers. All right. It is not letting me do that. Hold on here. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about VA Disability Day, guys. Love the fancy chairs sitting in. Yeah, I love my chairs too. It's great. It's great. Why can't I put in boards in here right now? This is crazy. That's yeah, no. Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, that's great. That'll work. Okay, anyway. So, all right. So, we're talking about VA disabilities, guys. So, VA disabilities are a huge, huge misunderstood thing, right? A lot of people don't understand what VA disabilities actually are. There's a huge disconnect between the assumptions we make regarding VA disabilities. And being September 11th, I thought I would come out and really share and help people understand what VA disabilities are, how to get them, why we should get them, why should you even bother to apply, the whole 9 yards, right? And it's important. We need to go fight for our stuff. We need to make sure our families are taken care of. We need to make sure that we are doing all the things that we need to do to make sure that who we need are looked after. That's kind of what we do, right? And that's what we ultimately want to do, is take care of our loved ones. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay. So please share this out, guys. Anyone you know who's a vet who wants this, this is going to be live. I'm going to be hacking this up and putting it on my sites. If people want to know how to find me, get more information, you can always go to my website, go to my bios, things like that. It's just drcameron.com. Let's talk about VA disabilities. Okay, there are many myths and barracks lawyers regarding VA disability, right? And people say all the time, there's worse vets off than me, right? I never saw combat, so I'm not entitled to VA disability. That's going on, Leone, right? It doesn't matter if people are actually worse off than you. It's an entitlement we get for our military service. You don't have to have been in combat. You don't have to have been deployed anywhere. It doesn't affect your freedoms or your rights. I mean, I know a lot of people are worried about that. It doesn't really affect those things. And this is really about taking care of yourself and your family, right? It's not about looking like you're broken. It's not about any of that stuff. It's really about making sure that your medical stuff is taken care of, your benefits that you've earned in service are taken care of. Now, a big important thing to understand is the VA doesn't actually take care of all vets. They only take care of those who are actually eligible for VA disability. And that being said, right, VA disability compensation is a monthly tax-free payment that's provided by the government, right, to veterans with service-connected disabilities. And that's kind of important, right? It's got to be service-connected. Now, there is a magic timeline of service that they count anything going on with you as potentially service-connected. I believe that's about 7 years. But after that, or before that, it's kind of what's in service. But we're not going to go into the finite detail of things. I'm trying to help vets actually get their disability benefits, right? In order to receive these disability benefits, right, it's got to be an injury or illness that you encountered during service, right, or a part of training for service, or related to it, right? Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. I'm in my late 40s. I get to keep my hair. It's great. You guys are funny, but it's got to be related to military service, right, or occurred during military service. Now, there's a couple different caveats to that. Like there's combat related, non-combat related, and generally combat related is when you're doing your combat role And mind you, I'm giving you guys very, very loose definitions here. But it's when you're training for your combat roles, like military police, you're not always going to go do detaining operations, right? It's thanks, appreciate it, my dear. Um, the you're going to be going out there and it, telling these evaluators where you got the injury and what you were doing. That kind of helps that element, right? But we have to apply for them first, and we have to get there and over that first hurdle. Okay. Now, everything I'm talking about, every single thing I'm talking about is on va.gov, right? How to apply, what the benefits are. I know it's a little bit of a mess to navigate sometimes, right? But you can't quit. You really can't. Yeah, Frank, you're absolutely right. You can't give up. You can't quit. You have to apply, right? And stop listening to the barracks lawyers. Stop listening to the naysayers because they have nothing to do with you. This takes care of your family. To give you an idea, right, a VA disability payment doesn't mean that you are broken. It just means that you have something that happened to you or was aggravated by something that you did in service. I'm full-time employed, but I'm also 100% permanent and total disabled vet. You can still work full-time. It doesn't affect your ability to own weapons. It doesn't affect your ability to go get jobs. It doesn't mean you're entitled to Social Security benefits. You could be, but there's a whole bunch of other things going on there, right? Most people have ringing in the ears, what's called tinnitus, just from being on the ranges and stuff. That's almost an automatic 20%. That's an extra almost $350 in your pocket a month. 50% disability, it gets up to about $1,000. You get paid for every spouse, for your spouse. You get paid for every dependent that you have, and it keeps going up and up and up. 100% disability, it really isn't all that hard to get, and that's $4,000 a month, tax free. Not to mention, you get other benefits along with this, like access to. Sorry, thanks, DV6. I know it's changed a lot, but 10% is $175. That's a date with your spouse, right? But dependent children count. There's all sorts of elements in there, right? But 100% isn't really all that difficult to get for the most part. But $4,000 is what you get for 100%. Not to mention, there's things like VRE, which is a employment program. If you have a disability benefit, to be able to go and pay for you and potentially your spouse and children to go get educated, to go get a career. There's state park benefits, all sorts of things, right? There's a bunch of things that they're entitled to, right? Or that you're eligible for, I should say. And that's a big misconception too, is just because you're a veteran doesn't mean that you're entitled to a rating or disability or a benefit. That may just mean that you're eligible for it, right? And that's a more in-depth conversation. But most people don't understand that your VA disability compensation is based upon a percentage, and they don't do half percents. It's 10% increments. So 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way up to 100, right? These, you could have a bunch of individual disabilities that are related to add up to like 160, 180%, 210%. But at the end of the day, they have a special calculation, and that's what gets you your rating. And at certain markers in your rating, your dependents are eligible for benefits. Your family's eligible for healthcare, free healthcare, dental benefits, things like that, vision, all sorts of things. But you need to go look into what benefits are available. If you don't know where to go, you can go to VA. Most veteran service organizations like the VFW and American Legion have printed up materials for it. I have one on my website that people can go download at drcameron.com, right? It's all free. Okay. But once you get your benefits, right, there's additional things that we talked about, right? There's additional service connected things. They can get home loan assistance and education benefits, all sorts of things. Okay. To apply for disability compensations, veterans need to submit a claim, right? And that's really the first part. They have to submit a claim. If you haven't submitted a claim, you have to understand what you're submitting a claim for and how to write it up. Now, Frank, as far as VRE, I can answer what questions I can about that, but let me get through this stuff first. Be more than happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. Okay. But in order to apply, right, you have to mail it in, you have to fax it, you can drop it off at hand. You can even go into a VA service center and they will sit down and apply with you. The easiest way to do this is what I'm going to talk about today and how to get these benefits. You're going to have to provide evidence of service, which is generally your DD-214, right? Sometimes they have it in the system, sometimes they don't, but everyone who's a veteran should go and register with their local VA, even if they don't have benefits, because then they get their stuff in the system. Now, there's a couple steps to actually getting benefits. There's about 6, okay? Step 1, right, and what I recommend to everyone is they need to actually do what's called an intent to file form, right? Even if you're not registered with the VA, it's a single form. It's a VA form 21-0966. You can Google it. It's an intent to file. Now, intent to file is pretty cool. What it means is I am planning on doing a thing. I'm not ready to do it yet. Now, why is this so cool? Because it gives you 12 months from the date that you file it to submit your claim or whatever paperwork you're going to do. Right? It doesn't matter if it's an appeal. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm starting my clock today. And why that's important is because if I submit this paperwork today, this intent to file, which is just a 1-page form, right? That basically is your name and I'm intending to file something with the VA. When you finally do file your VA disability, which is, call it 6 months down the road, right? It backdates it to that intent to file. So if January 1st is when you submitted that intent to file and you didn't file till November, right? They're going to backdate your pay and benefits back to that January 1st date. That is why that is so important. Okay. Now, once you do that intent to file, that's what I recommend everyone do immediately. You can always change your mind, but that's what I recommend you do. If you need to get your records, your DD-214, right, go for it. But step 2, I generally recommend, is make a list. Okay, for VA disabilities, you need to make a list. Now let's talk about this for a minute. Your VA disabilities, you're being evaluated and compared basically an 18-year-old kid going into service is how I explain it to most people, right? You are listing out anything and everything that has ever bothered you, that you've seen a unit level medic for, you've ever bitched to your buddy about, that you've ever had to treat yourself in service. Now we're talking about all sorts of things. I'll get to a list of common stuff, right? But not everything is in your medical records. And that's a big issue. Not everything made it back to our medical records, right? So we have to make sure that we are making that list, right? The military also, or the VA also understands that it was not couth, I should say, to go be broken or go to sit call because, then we were mission capable and we didn't want to look broken. It would affect our careers. So the VA actually put in safeguards about that, where we don't necessarily have to have a lot of documentation or proof. They just have to have a reasonable belief that it possibly could occur during service or related to military service, right? Now, the best way to make some of these lists is if you're married or have a loved one, talk to them. What hurts me all the time? Get a piece of paper for a week, make a list. Anything and everything that ever hurt, any injury, any scars that you have, anything, write it down. Because what you're going to do is you're going to put this on your application, your VA disability application. And what's going to end up happening is once you submit this, they're going to send you to a CMP exam, right? And I can't remember what it stands for off the top of my head, but a disinterested third party to evaluate you. They're going to say, all right, you said your shins hurt back in 1902. Why? Well, I was fine before I joined the military, and then I started having shin splints in the military during basic training, and every so often it bothers me, but not really. Okay. Now they're going to write all this up, and they're going to give you a rating for it.
even a 0 rating. Thank you, Comp and Pension. CMP is Comp and Pension. They're going to give you a rating for this. Even a 0% rating is still a rating. Anything that the VA rates you for, they will take care of. And that's even related. And that's drastically important. Okay. But you really don't need a lot of proof, right? The evaluator has to have a reasonable belief that the injury or issue possibly is related to military service. That's it, guys. Okay. That's step 2. Step 1, file that intent to file. Step 2, make your list. Step 3 is get that DD-214. Everyone should have a copy of it anyway. But if you don't, you can go to va.gov records and apply. They will send you your DD-214. You send them a little bit of information when you served, your social, all that fun stuff, and they will send it to you. And I tell everyone to scan it, put it in a shared drive. We were told when I got out of the military to go take it down to your local county records clerk and have it certified and filed with the county, all sorts of things, but you need a copy of it. You're going to need a copy of it for a lot of your other VA benefits as well, housing, stuff like that. Okay. But that's step 3. Step 1 is do that intent to file. Step 2 is make that list. Step 3 is get that 214, right? Now, here's the kicker. Some people do not have a honorable discharge. Not all disability benefits require you to have an honorable discharge, right? Now, I'm not going to go into that today, but even if you have an other than honorable, I've seen people with dishonorable discharge get disability benefits. They may not get pay, but they get other treatment and medical stuff as well. So it doesn't really matter. First step is apply, right? Or you got to make this happen. Okay, so after you get your 214, then you actually have to apply. Okay, now there are a couple ways to apply for your disability benefits, right? One is through paper copy. I like the paper copy the best when applying because I can write what I want and I'm not stuck with drop-down boxes of things that I don't understand. Some of us have had medical training, some of us haven't. My recommendation to you guys is write what hurts, not write the medical terminology. So a lot of people have shin splints, for example, right? The medical terminology is bilateral shin splints, which means that you have injuries in your left and right leg, right? But you're making an assumption that's what the injury is, and you're not the doctor evaluating you. So what I generally recommend for people is when they're writing up their list of injuries and woes, that they write out what hurts. Let the doctors figure out what it is. Because if you say that my right knee hurts, all they're going to look at is your right knee. They're not going to look at the knee, the hip, the shin, and everything else. So the more medical terminology you use, you can actually limit yourself. And let the doctors use their words and terminology, because if we use ours, that's what kind of sometimes actually screws up some of our ratings and stuff. We really want to make sure that we are giving the doctors the best opportunity to look us up and down completely. Okay. But you can submit it electronically online through the VA, which actually is the quickest, right? But I prefer the paper version because I can write what I want. And I just fax it in, right? You can drop it off at a VA location. Should you include alien abductions in your medical history? I'm not even justifying that one, right? These guys are trying to help you out at the CMP exams. Most of them are vets, or a lot of them having a lot of experience working with vets. So if you explain to them what happens, explain to them what your job was, right? So I got out as a military working dog handler, and most people don't know what that job entails. Otherwise, then I get cute puppies to play with. But I would just explain how I'd train and catch a 100-pound dog on one arm and how I'd rotate. And that really changed the concept of how I was evaluated for my disabilities, right? So write what's going on, write what you did, things like that. On this application, it's going to say, when did this occur, right? You can give general timelines, right? What were you doing? You need to write if you were preparing for deployment or not preparing for deployment. You need to write during deployment, during tactical operations during whatever, right? Write what you were doing. Don't dumb it down. Some of you are going to say that, my stuff was classified, right? Well, no shit. Everything in the military has classification. But the reality of it is what you exactly did, the mission was classified. The location was classified, not how you got your injury. You can say that I got injured during military operations rappelling. I got injured because I fell off a vehicle. It doesn't matter what happened, the details of what happened. They're just trying to figure out what's going on. When you get to your CMP exam, if they're asking for more detail, then by all means, if it's classified, I can't disclose that yet, but this is the gist of what kind of happened, right? And you can make a judgment call at that point, but you got to get off your ass and apply first. Okay. When you send it in, the VA is actually saying it takes about 94 days to process it and get a decision right now, which is great. Okay. And I do recommend that everyone get that va.gov email account login because all you can track all your stuff, your process, where it's sitting, the whole 9 yards. Okay. And you can do all your benefits on there. You can apply for extra things. It's great. All your crap is on there. And that's what I highly recommend. Okay. So step 1, we talked about, submit that intent to file. Step 2, make that list. Step 3, get your 214. Step 4 is get off your butt and apply. Step 5, right? So there's 6 steps. But step 5 is open every single piece of mail the VA gets you. You should get your first piece of mail within 10 business days. Okay. And that's what the standard is for the VA, but the reality of it is they're going to send you a lot of crap and they're going to overwhelm you. Sometimes they'll be asking for more medical documentation. You may or may not have it. That's fine. But some of that documentation is going to be like, hey, I need you to fill out this form in addition to whatever, right? Here's a form for your dependents. Here's a form for this, right? It's very common with post-traumatic stress. They want a specific form. With military sexual trauma, they want an additional form with that. But open it up and look at it and read it. If you don't have additional medical records, that's fine, but you open up everything. Okay. Step 6, right? You really have to go in and make sure you make all your appointments. Your evaluation starts the moment you get into that parking lot. Okay. So it doesn't mean good to fake it, and you don't need to exacerbate injuries or make shit up, but be honest. Tell them what it is on your worst day. Tell them what today is for you. Don't get out of the car and then the moment you hit the door, start walking in with a cane because you want to make your injuries look worse. That's not exactly ethical. But tell them what your worst day is. These guys and gals that are working these things are not garbage. They, for the most part, want to help you out. So the more you can help and identify your disabilities and give them an honest evaluation, it's great. Okay. Now, a couple lessons learned, right? And this is just how to get basic disabilities. For those of you seeking increases, right? Some lessons learned are every 90 days to 6 months, right? Go back online and say, I want to apply for a disability increase, right? It's one of the first blocks. VA disabilities, click the box and go down it says what you're currently rated for, and it'll say apply for an increase. Don't need any other documentation. Half the time they'll increase them, right? Depending on how long it's been and what's going on with it. And sometimes they'll deny it. And we'll get to that some of the stuff. But that's the number one thing, right? Number 2, go get that va.gov account. That is critical to making sure that you can track what's going on and figure out what's going on. Hell, when I got my first disability rating, I got my first payment before I got notified by the VA that I was increased. I also saw online that I was 100% before I was able to get the piece of paper in the mail. So it's a great way to track what's going on. And no, I don't work for the VA. Okay. Now, when it comes to getting an increase, there's a couple ways you can do it, right? First off, go sign up for the VA. right? Go to your primary care. You will be assigned to primary care. Talk to your doctor. Say, doc, during service, I experienced X, Y, and Z. Can you evaluate me to see if it's still affecting me today? The first thing that doc is going to do, he's going to hop on that computer and go, veteran came in and identified that he or she was injured or suffered these situations during service. They're going to send you out to go get evaluated by a specialist, pain management, orthopedics, obstetrician, proctologist, who knows, right? And what you're going to do is you're then going to wait about 30 days for the system to update, and then you're going to go apply for that VA benefit increase because now it's in your VA record and you're actively being treated and seen for it. Okay. So those little things can actually help increase your VA disability. But if you're not being seen for it, right, you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay. Now let's talk about some common things related to military service, right? And mind you, I am a mental health provider. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not your mental health provider. I am just a veteran out here today helping other vets. Okay. But I can talk about what I know. I can't tell you what to do, or I can't diagnose anything. But common things. This is kind of how I tell vets to evaluate themselves. Go head to toe. What hurts, right? What bothers you? Tinnitus or ringing in the ears. Okay. You have hearing loss, which is different than ringing in the ears. Okay. Some of us call it CRS, can't remember shit syndrome, right? But at the end of the day, it's understanding things that you can write down for your VA disability. When you're looking at this stuff, it's not about feeling broken. It's where are you at compared to when you were 18, when you were in service. Okay. You have hearing loss, headaches, migraines. Do you know the difference? Right? Some people know them, some people don't. But they're different. They're not the same. Right? Tension headaches, sinus headaches, they're all different. Right? When you go and write this stuff down and go talk to these CMP examiners, don't tell them what you are convinced it is. Tell them what you think it is. I think I have migraines. I think I have seasonal allergies. I think it's this, unless you're a doctor and you know for sure, right? But allergies, okay? If you didn't have allergies before the military and you're around burn pits, you might have them now, okay? Loss of taste or smell. Has your taste or smell changed? Neck pain, upper, middle, lower back pain. It's all different, guys. All right. Shoulder pain, right? Any digestive issues, lack of sexual drive, right? Issues with intimacy, sexual performance, or arousal. Now, let's have a gut check here, right? And this is 18 and older chat anyway. If you ever went to go have sex and you couldn't, you weren't aroused as you wanted to be, male or female, you couldn't finish, right? You couldn't stay with your head in it, right? The whole 9 yards. You have DV6. That's not considered normal. Tell them about it. Go get it looked at, right? Especially over 40 in men, your testosterone drops and now you have issues anyway, right? Let the VA tell you whether it's connected or not, right? And even I'm listing off a bunch of things, right? Even if you write them down and you don't think they're related to service, tell them anyway, right? Then you turn around and say, they'll turn around and say, well, no, this isn't connected. You say, all right, thanks, good, right? But no, this is actually technically related due to X, Y, and Z, and that happens all the time, right? I had my stepfather got cancer, served 2 years in Vietnam, didn't think it had anything to do with service. Ended up giving him 100% the moment they took a look at him because they go, nope, this is definitely related with all your stuff going on. Okay. But like I said, upper, lower, middle back, digestive issues, lack of sex drive, issues with sex drive, performance or arousal, right? And this includes women too, right? Um, pain during sexual intercourse, right? Painful joints in your hands, elbows, shoulders, left and right, hips, right? Um, the shin splints, knee pains, ankles, foot problems, right? Um, popping joints, sleeping issues, either falling or staying asleep, right? And heightened anxiety or depression. PTSD. Oh, PTSD is a great one, right? PTSD is one of these things that either everybody wants or nobody does. It's either a badge of honor or a patch of shame. For those of you who don't know, PTSD is nothing more than you experience a significant emotional event that changed your perception of safety that resulted in a conditioned response. Essentially, you went through some shit and now you act a little bit differently, right? For safety. That's all it is. It doesn't mean you're broken. A diagnosis of PTSD or a mental health issue doesn't automatically take away your weapons and your freedoms. If you accept psychotropic medication, that's a different story, right? But getting a diagnosis of something during service doesn't affect you like that, okay? Sexual trauma and military sexual trauma. Now, I bring these two up as separate because they really are, okay? Sexual trauma is just what it sounds like, traditional sexual trauma. It happens to both men and women, right? And you need to identify it. Military sexual trauma has a little bit different additive to it, right? It, not to mention, also has the physical components, but a lot of times we'll see that people have trauma because something happened or there was a potential for something happen or they happen to someone they know and now they're paranoid about it could happen. They've had to change their behaviors. They've had to interact differently around people. They've had to change who they are out of fear or worry if something's going to happen or could happen, right? Or it did or attempted to happen, right? And there, it doesn't always have to have physically happened, okay? But something to think about. For women, our irregular menstrual cycle, it happens a lot when it comes to fitness and high performance activities in women, right? Hip issues, things like that, miscarriages, some things that people need to think about. Did you guys ever get sick due to a vaccination, right? When I was in, we were doing anthrax and smallpox and all sorts of other things, and it took a toll on quite a few of us. Okay, you need to write that stuff down. Were you ever exposed to burn pits? You need to write that down. Depending on what military base you were on, some of those bases had toxic chemical spills, right? One of the couple of Marine bases for sure I know had it. But military chemical exposure also. Things like vehicle fuel, oils, CLP, vehicle exhaust. You know, most of the around vehicle had to go get those AOAP samples, stuff like that. Be on big aircraft carriers or ships and wherever it may be. You're around that stuff, explosives, ordnance, stuff like that. Those are all chemicals that you need to identify that you were exposed to so you can go get evaluated for things. Scars. Yes, Tara, talk exposure risk activity. Thank you. Scars that you have. I have lots of scars from being in service. You get rated for your scars. Yeah, there's simple cuts and scratches, but they're related to military service. They get evaluated. Okay. Broken bones, fractured bones. Right? Once again, they're healed. They're probably fine now, but you need to go get rated and evaluated for it. And most importantly, you have to write down anytime you ever went to go see a medic, your buddy who was a doc, whoever, anytime you did a thing, you need to write it down. Let the examiners figure out what is military related and what is not. Okay. And that is what you need to do. When you identify these conditions, right? And I think DV6 says they were an evaluator, disability evaluator. But what ends up happening is a lot of these people end up writing up these medical evaluations. They send it off to go get evaluated by the VA then for compensation. And they're looking for keywords. The first time around, they're really looking for keywords. Does this injury meet these keywords? Do they write up with these keywords? Okay. Then they're going to come back and say, yes, no, it fits in this great CFR document. It falls here. You get this percentage for it. Then they stick it in a big calculator and they say, okay, this is what your final disability rating is. You may or may not like that outcome, but you guys have to understand how it actually works. And based upon what's going on, that is what the rating you get. Now, this is where things come in about, what if they ask for more medical documentation? What if I don't get the rating I like, right? Well, if you don't like the rating you get, or you think you should have gotten more, you need to go look up what the requirement is, okay? You need to go look up what the max allowance is, because the rating system changes all the time, right? When I was first in, it was, couldn't get my VA disability, it was 20% for tinnitus. DV6, who does this all the time now, is saying that's only 10% now. So things change, right? But you have to know what the rating is. If you need additional paperwork, documentation, go back to the VA. Say, I want to go get this checked again, right? Once it's checked in your medical records, then go reapply for disability benefits. You guys have to understand these systems don't talk to one another. You can't just go see the doctor about it and expect it to happen. If you don't like the answers you're getting from the VA, go to a private civilian doctor. Say, I want to get evaluated for this. Get a copy of that medical record. Send that off with an evaluation, okay? With your request for increase, right? But that's what you need to do for documentation. Like, this is for basic medical stuff, okay? Now, what do you do if you actually disagree with your decision? All right, that's an important question too. All right, the first thing you do if you disagree with what you got, that first form I told you about, that intent to file, that VA form 21-0966, that intent to file, you need to file that immediately, right? Because you only have like so much time for when they make their decision to fight it. That gives you a year. Okay. Now that gives you time to go get additional medical records. That gives you time to go do your research to find out if you actually should have gotten a higher rating or not. That gives you time to go get resources to make an argument or claim. Now, here's the kicker. Okay. Don't go to a barracks lawyer. Don't go to your buddy that says, oh, I got 30% for this or 60% for this, because their situation is not yours. Okay. There are accredited attorneys and claims agents, right? There are free services out there, 100% free. They are outside the VA, but they are 100% free. Go to them and they will be able to look over your case and they will be able to fight and do that. There are lawyers that specifically get paid by the VA and the government to take on these cases to help you. And they'll be able to look at it and say, nope, you should have got this rating, go here. Okay. The veteran service representatives, the VA cannot tell you what to do. They will not tell you what to do. They cannot even write down anything for you. You have to make your own decisions. They can't tell you, well, you should have got a higher, you should have got lower, right? They can't do any of that stuff. That's not what they're there for. They're there to help you file paperwork. But there are accredited attorneys, claims agents, outside the VA people that can help you with that. A lot of nonprofits are out there doing that. Most universities have a legal clinic that will be able to help that. Now, getting help with this stuff, right? There's a huge thing going on right now and online and in the world about, predatory veteran support. Let's be honest about this. That is a self-inflicted gunshot wound, right? The VA at va.gov. There's literally a site on that says get help from accredited representatives. They link you to accredited people that are there to help you. Accredited people, accredited agencies cannot charge you. They legally cannot charge you to help you file a claim, period. They cannot, right? There's plenty of agencies out there that will help you file a claim and charge you a percentage of your back pay, charge you all sorts of things, but that's crap, okay? These are your benefits. You should keep them. If you're going to go to someone who's not accredited by the VA, right, I highly recommend that, and there are paid services for this, right, that you go find someone who's going to charge people a flat rate. When I help people with VA benefits, I'll give them a basic brief like this, and then if they actually want my help, I do charge a flat rate, but I charge a flat rate based upon the time I'm taking to do a thing, not actually a percentage of their benefits or anything like that, right? And I guarantee that what we do is going to work. If not, I give them their money back because it's about ethics for me. But there are paid services, but you don't need to pay for anything. The VA will actually give you these resources for free. All this information I'm giving you today has been for free. The VA, this is all VA basic information. It's not rocket science. It's all out there. Okay. But it is all out there. Now, what is service connected? What is not service connected? It really does depend on how you identify things happen and what you're willing to talk about. I've had veterans that I've helped talk about how, they've had sexual trauma before and during after military service, but the evaluator at the time only heard the part during service or the part that happened after service. Were they taken care of by the VA? Yes, because of their disability rating. But they actually had to go back and get things service connected for sexual trauma in the military. There are things that still have a 0 rating, right? And it cannot, and they will say it is or is not service connected, but if you have a rating for it, they will still take care of it. Okay. If they do not want to rate something, they'll just say, no, we're not providing a rating for at this time. All right, I'm going to open this up for guests and things like that. If people want to come on up and ask questions, they're more than welcome to. I'll be more than happy to answer questions. But ask whatever questions you want about VA stuff. I'm more than happy to help. I cannot tell you what to do. I can give you the basic information. I'm more than happy to give you guys all that stuff. See where we're sitting here.